we've been married for a while.
Yes, coming up on 11 years.
Coming
yes.
up on 11 years. You excited about that?
Yes. I feel like that's a dope milestone.
It is.
I feel like every year is a milestone, honestly.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, every year it's another year to celebrate, you know, success and just being together.
For sure.
But thinking about that, right?
Okay.
Going way back.
Back.
Like 11 years back.
Okay.
What would be some advice you would give to people who are in the pursuit of a marriage, who are seriously dating, who want to be able to have that above average relationship that can one day turn into a marriage? What's some insights you would give the young Thundercats that are looking for some meaningful love and connection in their life?
Good question. I would say work on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, know what you stand for, know what your values are, build your own good character, your own integrity. Focus more on what you're doing and who you're being, and let that help you attract who you want. If you're going into the dating world, don't pretend or pose, because that's manipulation.
Right.
Be true to yourself and let someone...
No, sit down.
She's trying to move the bed closer.
Sit.
And let the people who are attracted to who you truly are find you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be my number one thing for sure.
What I've noticed is that a lot of people tend to prioritize looking for somebody who is seemingly their ideal person without realizing how much they have to be ready to receive whatever their ideal person is.
Absolutely.
So that personal development piece, a lot of people miss that. And it's a difference between being developed to the point to where you're ready to include somebody with that, and being also developing yourself to where you're also able to receive what you think you say you want.
Right.
And I know, like, when me and you met,
Okay.
we gonna go there. When me and you met, I told you, well, I've said it plenty of times at this point, you know, I was coming out of a pretty dark space, and I was in the process of really working on myself, and I was trying to do that to the best of my abilities. But something I know that you've said so many times before is you can only do so much work on yourself. But sometimes it takes having the right person to come into your life to be able to expose the areas inside of you that you really need to work on to make you right for the person that you're attempting to be with. And you showed me a lot of that, because the stuff that I was working on for me and the stuff that I learned to work on with you were two totally different things.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even have paid attention to those things had you not have came along.
Right.
So there was a journey that I had to go on to fix me personally. And there was things that I had to be able to identify that you helped me identify in myself that made me better for the woman I wanted to be with, which was you.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't see everything about yourself. Like, I feel like we all see ourselves in a certain way, and sometimes we do miss our flaws. And being with someone, or even being around other people, it exposes parts of us that we need to fix. Because when you're with people or around people, you get to practice who you really are.
Yeah.
So it does expose parts of yourself. And I think, like, the same thing with me. There were things I needed to work on too. Obviously, like, we were kids. So we both had things we needed to work on. But I always think it's really dope when I think about how opposite we were when we met compared to now, to how similar we are.
Yeah.
Like, we were so opposite, but our opposites, like, were so, like, aligned. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I don't completely agree.
You don't have to agree. That's fine.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I don't think we were aligned in our opposites at all.
Okay.
But what I do think that I think we were just so curious about each other. And I thought it was dope that I got to be able to share so much with you because you hadn't really been exposed to anything.
Right.
and then seeing your worldview and how you thought about things, that was so interesting to me because, for lack of a better way of saying it, you were like untainted. You know what I mean? You hadn't been, let's say, corrupted by the world to a degree to where you had a alternative like worldview. And so like I was so curious as to why you were as solid as you were and thought the way you did. And that was interesting to me. Like I don't think that we were aligned, but we were so curious about each other's differences.
I say we were opposite, but like perfect opposites, because I'm saying it like this, because I came from a household, 2-parent household. My mom was really, really strict on me. Like I was kind of had a militant like lifestyle before that. You, on the other hand, had a single mom household. You were all over the place. So like even like how we grew up together, like it was definitely opposite. But of course, like the curiosity in that, it helped in that element. But I think our opposites is what made us so curious.
Yeah, like it filled in the spaces between the two.
Exactly.
Between the two.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, I think the fact that we were so opposite, that's what made us so curious. So like it something needed to pique that interest.
Right.
And it was the fact that we were opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that even in us being that way, it created so much opportunity for us to grow.
Yeah.
Like we really had to grow into each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love the fact that you were as patient as you were with me, and you still allowed me to be so much of who I was, especially just because we were just friends, you know, for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you didn't, just personally, just speaking about you, you didn't let some of my extreme character traits at that time be such a red flag, for lack of a better term, to where it turned you off from us being as cool as we were. And I love the fact that you were still able to see so much good in me, and that you opened my eyes up to me being able to see where all the areas that I could improve in.
I feel you. Let's dial it back. I liked you as a person.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were friends first. Like before you became my friend, I liked who you were as a person. Like I know you always talk about how I always had like certain standards when it come to like people I fucked with, people I was cool with or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like I liked who you were, and then we became friends because I liked who you were. Mm-hmm. You were just a dope individual, and I couldn't help but notice like how much you wanted to grow, how much you wanted to be better. Like you was definitely like freaking high speed as fuck in the Army. Like that's just what you did, you know? And then watching you personally grow into that as well. Like just watching you get better over time was like amazing for me. So like seeing a man like really just try was like really dope. And we were just friends. I was going to go somewhere with that, but I completely spaced on where I was going.
I like how you was talking about my dopeness, so you can continue that.
Yeah. I liked who you were. And I think that's a missing element for a lot of people. Like there was no motive behind what we were doing. It's just, we just liked who each other were, and we just wanted to kick it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So our friendship was built on actually liking who each other were and being interested in who each other were and who each other were growing to be.
Yeah.
Fuck, where was I finna go with this? I hate when I do that. Where you going with it? Where you going with it, girl?
Where you going? Where you going?
I'm going with it.
See, I was finna say something back, but I don't even want to throw your thought off.
Oh my God. No, go ahead, because I forgot. I really forgot what. No, I'm irritated, because why?
It be like that sometimes.
It do.
It's all right, we'll bring it back.
Bring it back, yeah, go ahead.
But in all of that, I do want to point out the fact that you said that there was like no motive. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a big thing. Mm-hmm. I think we were so focused on just being cool and getting to know each other and things like that. Granted, there was a lot going on at the time, but I love the fact that we just allowed each other to actually get to know each other. Mm-hmm. And I remember, man, I used to tell people all the time, like, when we were getting to know each other, we were really trying to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And I mean that to the degree where I remember all the time you used to tell me that I would ask you questions that you had never been asked before.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask you so many like deep questions, so to say, and all of these different things, like just trying to get a peek into your world to see how you thought and how you felt about certain things. And I know that sometimes was like uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it made you really like kind of look at yourself a different type of way, but it created so much curiosity inside of ourselves individually and us, you know, like as friends and what we had. And I think even that allowed us to continue to keep growing and like just increase the curiosity between us.
Yeah.
Because there were things that you would ask me about me that I had never even thought about before.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Mm-hmm. And so us being together was helping us get to know each other individually. Mm-hmm. And like
self-discovery, helping
yes.
each other discover self.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the process.
Like
yeah.
we were paying such close attention to each other because we actually wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a slept on thing that a lot of people don't do these days. Like we really wanted to get to know not even just our backgrounds, but how we thought about certain things, our beliefs, and how we felt about certain things. And not even with the intent of like judgment or comparison or anything like that. But just why do you think that? Why do you feel this particular type of way? How did you grow up to where that was like the norm for you?
Yeah.
With no agenda behind the questions. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious. Because I know that if you think and you feel a certain type of way, it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't have to judge that because we all got our own past. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you looked at me the same way. Like you didn't have to agree with it. You didn't have to understand it. It was just something happened in this person's life that made them this way.
Right.
And I'm just curious about that. And there's nothing more than that. Mm-hmm. And that allows you to really get to know a person. And I think the most vulnerable way, because all you're doing is showing that you care and that you're interested and looking for that type of like understanding. And so I think that was like something super dope that we had together.
I remember what I wanted to say.
Run it.
Because you were talking about how like certain things about you were a red flag. That's where I was going with it.
Okay.
And what I was saying is that like it was certain things that I actually liked about you, and I never saw you as a red flag. Like you may have saw things about yourself that you thought that you needed to fix and work on for you. But I know people always ask me that, well, when your husband was a red flag, because, you know, the video you made, well, when he was a red flag, how did you deal with him? First of all, I didn't deal with him like at all. Like he was my friend and we were just trying to figure out life as friends. Mm-hmm. And I think like the misunderstanding with that is the fact that people think that just because you said that you were a red flag, that meant you treated me badly.
Yeah.
Like not everybody who's had a traumatic past or had like abuse or whatever their upbringing was, not everybody treats people like shit because of their past. Mm-hmm. Like that's not like everybody thinks. Some people do that, but some people choose to do better.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's always the misunderstanding when you talk about like you were a red flag. So people think what their idea of a red flag is, not what we're actually talking about, which is fine. But I definitely wanted to clear that up. It's like you never treated me like crap because I didn't take crap from anybody. Yeah. So we wouldn't be together if that was a thing.
I think that is a huge thing that we haven't really spoke a lot on.
I know, yeah.
And to further expand on that, when I would say that a lot of what I was dealing with was internal. Because when I was calling myself a red flag, so to say, my problem when I met you was the fact that I had an idea of who I was supposed to be, and I wasn't being that. I had an idea of what type of man I thought I should be or working toward, and I wasn't doing that. I was doing a lot of the stuff that compromised myself, how I saw myself, my own beliefs and values and things like that. And I knew that I was out of alignment with who I wanted to be because I wanted more for myself. But at the same time, before you, there was a big period in my life where I was bored, distracted. I didn't have any like real focus, so to say. I still was trying to figure out life outside of being from the hood and being back home and stuff like that. I was trying to discover my own identity like as an adult.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
You was 18.
I was
You was a
18.
baby.
I was susceptible to just about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have any like really great influences at the time that I allowed to strongly influence me. Granted, I did eventually, but at that time, man, I was just all over the place. And so that is where the red flagness came from the insecurities, from the confusion, to not really knowing who I was or who I ultimately like wanted to be, the direction that I was going, from the collateral damage of bad decisions, from all of the driving tickets to drinking and all of the stuff that I was doing. It was less than ideal for me. Like my emotional intelligence, so to say, was not up to par. Like I saw myself in such a bad light because I had evidence that showed that I wasn't making the best decisions. And that is something that I knew.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't show outside of me, I knew that.
Right.
And that's the part that most people miss. I had so much going on inside of me that I knew the truth about. And to me, when I met you, it made me that much more aware of all of that. And I knew that the more I got to know you, that was going to be a problem. All of that stuff, the deeper we got in our connection, it started to surface itself like crazy. And I had to resolve it. So when I be talking about, oh, I was a walking red flag and all of this stuff, it's because I knew the truth about me. Even if you didn't know all of that stuff yet. And I was still trying to figure it out. But I knew it was something I was going to have to change.
Yeah.
And your presence made all of that stuff that much more like real to me, to where I knew I was going to have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the part, you know, that people miss. It wasn't about you knowing none of that stuff, but I knew the truth. And eventually it came and made its way to the surface.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So context matters.
It absolutely
and
does.
to add to that one more time,
Okay, well.
big point around the fact that I did not treat you bad.
Yeah.
I was never like verbally abusive or
Physically abusive.
none of that
That's
stuff.
not
Like
bad.
that was, I've never been that type of dude ever.
Yeah.
I've never had an abusive character ever in my life. Like I've always had very great connections and meaningful relationships. And shoot, treated anybody I ever met dope. Like, well, like I love people. Like, and man, you were really dope, but you had a different effect on me. You know what I mean? You had a completely different effect on me that I had never experienced before.
Right.
And so that part was there, but I definitely tried to do my best to make sure that I treated you with the highest level of respect and honor and all of these different things.
My presence demands it.
It did. Like, truth be told.
It is. It is what it is.
Yeah, because like even when I had those moments, man, I remember I used to get offended by such little stuff. The smallest things. And I would have like the dumbest justification as to why it made me mad.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it made sense. You know what I mean? And I would try to project the meaning that I had behind that stuff onto you to make it, in the attempt to make what's, let me fix how I want to say
Yeah,
this.
it's good.
I wanted the, let's call it traumatic stuff for lack of a better term. I wanted what it meant to me to mean the same thing to you, not realizing how destructive that actually was.
Right. Your trauma will never
It was
mean
not-
to me what it
Exactly.
means to you. I did not go through
Exactly.
it. Just like my trauma will never mean to you what it means to me because you did not go through it.
Exactly.
And I don't want to assign you my trauma's meaning. I love you. Why would I want to give you my trauma? Why would I want you to feel what I felt? No.
Yes.
I want you to have empathy for me, sure. but I don't want you to feel what I feel. No, or feel like, no.
Yeah.
That's weird to me.
Especially when it's defeating.
Yes.
It's like, you mean to tell me you had this one experience when you were however young, and now this word, like, I used to really get offended by you saying like, oh, you stupid, in a joking way or whatever, because when I was younger, I was diagnosed with a learning disability and all of this crap, even though I didn't do bad in school up until a certain point. But that was just because I was uninterested.
Right.
But I felt like, oh, well, since I had this experience, like, never say that because this means something to me and I want it to mean something to you. And like, I can't even make sense of how I tried to project that meaning onto you.
And I would be so confused because I would be like, babe, like, you know, when I say, oh, you stupid, it's because you said something funny. Like, even in the context of the situation, it's because it was a funny moment, not because I'm calling you stupid. And I would have to keep telling you, like, you have to realize, like, who it's coming from. Like, you know my heart, you know my intentions. In the context of this conversation, we're laughing. It's a funny moment. I'm not calling you dumb.
Here go the sad part, babe. I only ever did that with you.
Really?
Yeah, I never did that with I'm a joker, bro. I used to be out here cracking the meanest, most intense joke. You know what I'm saying?
And you never cracked jokes on me. We just laughed at funny stuff together.
Yes. So that's what was so odd about it. Like, the stuff that you would do and some of the encounters we would have, certain things would bother me because they were coming from you. And I don't even know how I made sense of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is really like the stupidest thing ever to me now, looking back.
Oh, now it's stupid. Now we can say stupid.
Yeah, big dumb. Big dumb. You know what I mean? But like, that's the type of foolishness that was like going on in my head at the time.
Yeah.
But, bro, you know, maturity, growth.
Thank God.
You know,
personal growth
took place.
Self-work.
Exactly. But it's just some of the craziest stuff, man. And then it was like, because I liked you so much, I just wanted all of these little things to mean something. And it was odd because so much of it never served any purpose at all. And eventually, you know, as we continued and we progressed and got closer and so forth and so on, eventually, man, I just like, I'm so glad that I made peace with so much of that stuff and just was like, bro, this is wild. Like, who cares? Like, you can get over that. Like, this person, this woman that you want to have in your life, she means way more than the crap you holding on to.
Right.
It's not that serious. And I thank God that I eventually got to a point where I was able to do that and just let it go. Like, some stuff, man, we just hold on to and assign meanings to it just because we feel like it's supposed to be important. Big stupid. Yeah, I'm off that.
Or thinking just because we disagree on something that it's a problem. Like, no, like, we can disagree on things and it still be all good. Like, we don't have to agree on everything. Like, that's like, we have two totally different experiences. We're two totally different people, two totally different personalities. We ain't gonna agree on everything. So, like, even understanding that part, you know, at such a young age was dope for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, man, in any relationship, man, that personal growth, like that self-improvement, it's everything. Like, before you decide to bring somebody into your life, you really have to get to a space to where you're open to growth and change at a different level. It's not saying that you may not be that way now, but it's going to be a different level when you bring somebody else into the fold. And being willing to accept whatever comes with that and then to start that work. Because the work you do on yourself and the work you do with somebody else is completely different. Because you're also having to learn how to be able to take care of those things for yourself, thinking about somebody else, and then being able to connect the two and make it relevant to the person's whose life that you're bringing into your own.
Right.
And that is a skill.
Yeah.
That is something you have to learn how to do. Even as, I started getting over like my past and all of the crap that I had been through, I still had to learn how to be able to communicate the things that I was feeling and working on and all of these different things to you. I still had to learn how to not be bothered by certain things that used to bother me before that I gave meaning to that really didn't mean anything. So learning how to do that with another person it's a whole nother type of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something you got to practice.
Yeah. Especially when like emotions are involved. Man, love be doing some things. Cause I think it's funny because like, I feel like we were both like, especially when you think about like us being in the army and we both had soldiers, like the way we communicate with our soldiers is like this, boom, 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 boom. And that's it. Like no emotions connected. You do the thing, you do the job, we're done. But when it comes to how we communicated with each other, it was totally different. It's like you have to learn that just because you know how to communicate a certain way in a certain environment doesn't mean that you have those same amazing skills when it comes to your relationship.
Man,
just because I can have the best one-on-one conversations with my clients when we talking about fitness and I'm trying to pull them out of their funk is totally different than when I'm talking with my husband. Like it's just a different connection. And knowing that connection that we have is way much more like delicate and it's more, I wish I could, my words ain't wording, but it's just like, it's just different. And it's like, just because, again, like I said, like just because you're successful at communicating in your job or communicating to your family outside of your household doesn't mean you're very good at it when you're with your husband or with your spouse or even with your kids. It's just a different level of communication. And it is a skill that you have to build. And in order for you to build that skill, you have to practice.
When I tell you that's like the realest thing ever for me.
Yeah.
Because man, I swear I struggled so bad with that.
Yeah.
I struggled so bad with that. And it used to irritate the life out of me.
Struggled.
Yeah. I used to struggle with that real bad.
Okay.
Past tense.
Yeah, because I didn't hear the D.
Yeah.
So that's
struggled.
There we go.
At the end. But anyway.
I'm done with you.
Because, man, I'm like, bruh, I've been leading soldiers since I was 20 years old. Bruh, I was 20, 21, and I had soldiers that was in their 30s. You know what I mean? Like ran operations with 12, 15, 20 some odd people, controlling millions of dollars, like negotiating deal, crazy stuff. And for some reason, I'm talking about could lead, teach classes, literally like teaching rooms with 50, 100 some odd people or whatever the case, and able to shine like it's nothing. No stage fright, like have presence, be able to articulate what I'm saying, talk about it. But for some reason, I get to talking to you about what might seem like the simplest thing, and my words get so jumbled up. And then it's like emotions get into it. And it's like, I'm trying to make sure that I'm saying the right thing to you. And then you'll tell me what you heard back. And I'll be like, nah, that's not what I meant. And I'm still trying to find the words. And now I'm getting frustrated because I'm trying to say one thing to you, but it's not coming out like I like. And now I'm getting bothered because I know I communicate better than this. But why when we talking,
in another environment, you communicate better.
Yes, like the words ain't wording.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, bruh, what is happening?
Right.
And I would get so bothered because I'm like, I'm getting frustrated, but it's not you. It's me because I know I communicate better than this. But for some reason, when we're talking, my words aren't doing what I want them to do. And I had to learn how to be able to like slow down, listen better, think about what I'm about to say, then say it to you and be like, did you understand what I'm saying? Like, how did you receive what I just said to you? So that way I can make sure it came out right. And then I'll try to say it another way. And then I'll get you to tell it back to me to make sure that you heard it right. And I'm like, what I'm discovering is I don't have the words to communicate what I'm actually trying to articulate to you because I can tell from what you said to me that what I wanted to come out didn't come out the way I intended it to. And like, I had to learn how to be able to do that. And that, Jesus Christ, that took a long time.
Yeah.
And shoot, that played a huge part into us getting to the point of like starting the podcast.
For sure.
Like, that's something that I recently, started to work on that much more. Even though it got better over time, even to this day, it's still a skill that I have to keep on working on and developing, because there's so much love and connection and caring, and always want to make sure that you say the thing the right way, because you can misplace. We've had these moments before. You misplace one word and it changed the whole conversation.
Yes.
It changed everything that you just said, and it can take it in a whole other direction.
And that's why it's important for when we're communicating that we both know that each other is coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
So even when words are misspoken, because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. Like, we know that it is not coming as a way to harm or hurt each other in any way. It's like, okay, maybe you did misspeak. Let me give you a little grace on that. Like, this is what I heard you say, and this is what I heard you say, and this is how I took it. But I'm pretty sure that's not what you meant. So let's rewind and let's say that over again, and let's like try to figure this thing out together. But that's also, again, knowing you and knowing your heart, and knowing you would never try to say nothing. You would never intentionally say anything that would hurt me.
Right.
Like, ever. And
I love the fact that we clearly know that about each other, that we would never intentionally try to attack one another, speak down on one another. And we can say that confidently because historically, we've never done that.
We've never done that with each other. We've never done that with people outside of our relationship. There's no one in this world who can say we went to them and badmouthed each other in the most horrible way.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we probably went to friends and we had conversations, but it's never been like, well, we talked down about each other. Hell no.
And see, and that's one of them things too, because it's like, even when we have moments where the communication may not be the best, we have a reference point. We have history to where we know that historically we communicate a certain type of way.
Yeah.
And we care at a particular level and all of these different things. So it's like, I know that it sounded this particular type of way, but something may be off here. You didn't mean it that way. And I know your heart. So that way I don't have to hold that against you.
Right.
And like, being able to have that reference point means everything.
Yes.
Because again, there's a track record of how we care for one another, how we treat one another, all of those things. So it allows you to be able to process even those not ideal, not well articulated things. It gives you just enough time to be able to think about it to another degree. It's like, I heard what you said. I'm not taking offense. I know you would never say anything to hurt me, any of that stuff. You probably don't have the words. I'm going to repeat back to you what I heard, what I think you said, all of this stuff. And it allows us to be able to give each other more grace and work through it. And I think it's so dope that we got that.
Yeah, and even if there is like a misunderstanding or anything, we go ahead and hash that out right then and there. Like, we don't let nothing sit. Like, if I felt like something was said in a way that I felt like it was mean or rude or whatever, like, we go ahead and address it in that moment. But it's rare to even feel that way. It's like, you kind of said something a little funky right there. I know you didn't mean that. What you meant? Like, and like, even when we talk, it's like, the way we communicate is so beautiful because I guess there's just so much love in how we talk to each other.
We give each other chances too.
Like, yes. And I'm just like, I can't explain it to the people. It's just like, we just have such a deep connection. And it's so hard for me to put certain things into words. And it's something that I've never seen before in the way that we communicate. And what's dope about it, I'm about to cry. Like, girl. What's dope about it is like, we've both never seen this type of communication in our lives ever. But we've been able to work on it in such a way to where we're like, you know what? We can create this for ourselves. We've built this from the ground up. We didn't need no example. We knew what we wanted for each other and we were willing to do the work. If that means I need to work on myself, I need to pick up a book, I need to listen to a podcast, whatever we need to do. We need to start a podcast, whatever we need to do in order for us to get better at our communication. We're willing to do that shit. It don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if I didn't see it. We can build it.
Come on, baby.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's so, like, who does that?
Listen. That's so fire because that's exactly what our marriage has been.
Yes.
Like, I be like, bro, I didn't have a present father. I didn't have active male role models to be able to teach me how to be able to love a woman the way that she needs to be loved or how to be a husband and all of that stuff. But I was fully capable of controlling what I could control.
Right.
For example, when we were early on in our marriage, I got How to Win Friends and Influence People so that way I could better learn how to communicate. I started reading more. We started doing all of these things to where we could work on it, shoot from trainings and taking classes and courses, all these different things. Like, we would go above and beyond to learn the skill set and then bring that back to our marriage.
Yes.
Like, I mean, countless hours of audio books. And then not only just listening or reading the books, but coming back to each other and be like, all right, baby, I learned this. Or us reading the books together and then talking about what each other learned and what it means to us and how we could implement that stuff in our marriage. And like, we started teaching ourselves how to be what each other needed in our marriage.
Right.
But we never gave each other excuse. If there was something we didn't know, we can Google it. We can look it up. We can find it in a book. We can ask somebody. We can look at a course. We can do something. We can control what we can control.
Yes.
And I love the fact that even long before any of this, most of this stuff was like 10 plus years ago.
Literally.
And we were that willing at that time to figure it out and to just love each other in a way to where we were able to just care for each other through the process and not get offended and upset and be patient with each other and just do what we could do. And man, I don't, with no guidance, something had to be God. Like,
Listen,
gave us the mentality to use what we had. And what we had was enough. And there was the willingness to go look for the answer.
Yes.
Even if we didn't have the answer to what does it mean to be a present and attentive and loving and caring spouse, we had the wisdom to go and find out.
Yes.
And that was enough.
Right. And knowing, like, in addition to that, that was enough. I absolutely agree with that. And knowing, like, even if you did come from a 2-parent household, I did, my parents were married, that doesn't mean you still know how to be married to the person that you're with. Watching my parents be married did not teach me how to be married to you.
Right.
I still had to learn how to be married to you, how to be what you needed, how to show up for you. You're my husband. It doesn't matter what my mom and my dad did. They knew how to be husband and wife for each other. I watched them be mom and dad to me. I had to figure out how to be your wife.
Yeah.
We talked through things. We learned how to communicate. That's how I figured this out. Not by watching them. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, like, I have no idea what my parents' needs were as husband and wife. That ain't none of my business.
Right.
That was their business. You're my business. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even when people say stuff like that, well, you know, my parents were married. That don't mean you know everything just because you've seen your parents be married.
Yeah. And because you're not married to your dad or your mom.
Exactly.
So the person that you're with is completely unique.
Exactly.
You have to learn how to be able to care for them the way that they uniquely need it.
Exactly.
And that comes from asking questions, being interested in each other, and learning how to pay attention in a way to where you can really get to see them and see through them.
Yes.
Like, that is something you have to pursue. And you got to be able to do that thing over and over and over again, because we're always growing and changing and developing and all of these things. So it's not something that you'll ever stop doing.
Right.
So even now, as we approaching 11 years of marriage, I'm still hyper focused on who you are today and who you are and who you're becoming. I have to pay just as much attention to you today as I did freaking 13, 11 years ago. It don't stop.
You don't.
It's just now, it's just a natural part of my being. So I do it, you do it without even thinking about it. It's not a label. But you know what though? Like that's that part that so many people miss. We've been high performers in our marriage for so long that there's things that we do at a level of mastery to where we unconsciously do it.
Yeah.
We unconsciously pay attention to each other at a close, hyper level. You know what I mean? And that it doesn't take any conscious resources to do that.
Right.
But that is a skill that's been developed over time.
Right.
Us knowing how to care for one another at the level that we do, that's a skill that was developed over time. So a lot of the things that we do so easily, the way that we communicate, the way that we can resolve, you know, conflicts in the way that we think or want to approach certain things or whatever the case may be, we're masterful at it at this point to where it don't really take a whole lot of thinking and effort and none of those things for us because we've done it consistently for so long.
Right.
But when we tell other people what we do, it sounds easy to us because we do it, but it's hard for other people because you haven't put in the reps yet and then learned how to be able to take that advice or that perspective and mold it to your situation with the person you're with.
Right.
Because you have your own unique situation, details, character traits, all of those things that you have to also accommodate for.
Right.
So, man, like context. There's things that we understand at this level that there's no way for anybody else to know it until you get to almost 11 years of truly productive marriage to where you can discover that.
Right.
And some people, man, they'll be together 30 years and still don't have 10 productive years.
That's true. That's true.
There's mugs out here, man, been married 20, 30 plus years and only got about 3 to 5 productive years.
Yeah.
And this is coming from people who get DMs and messages from people who've been
married for decades,
30 plus years.
Yeah.
And they be like, man, I'm still trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, man. But hey, we've been going for a minute, baby. We gotta wrap this up.
This is good.
Hey, but I hope you guys have really gotten some value out of this. It always means so much to be able to have these conversations. And I hope that you guys are really able to take some type of value out of, you know, the exchange that we had today. So until next time, family, my name is John Tron. This is my beautiful queen.
Adoria.
We are one dope couple. And until next time, peace and love.